Hello, my co-practitioners, practitioners of Dhamma. I would like to share to you some experience. Here I am in a shop, in a museum of different stones, maybe precious, maybe like just $70. Should be a precious one, $90, right? Of course, I will not be just showing to you all these wonder stones or their prices or whatever. There is some moral behind, something that I came up with while walking around here and trying not to waste my time of life, of human life, precious life, just for entertaining my seeing, but contemplating and practicing Dhamma. So there are a few more things that I will show you inside the shop, and then I will go outside just to be able to comment more, to speak more, and not to be so loud here. So watching all these, I just try to practice. Of course, I can practice by touching and realizing the contact and the body coming together. Sense door, giving us the consciousness of sensation, feeling arising. Look at these, they made the shape of the wood correspondent to the shape of these glass together. So of course I can be practicing knowing the scene and seeing the form, and the contact of form corresponds to the eye, and then the seeing consciousness arises, and recognition happens, and sanya happens. Look at these. Are these wood or stones? I will soon tell you. And then where their consciousness arises and recognition happens, there is cleaning and liking, disliking, and all those processes that create the cycle of life. Ouch! Ouch! Look at these creations. All is so beautiful. Of course, I try not to be lost just in enjoyment, but I contemplate, I practice. Still, I want to share to you what the nature can create. Actually, those are just pieces of wood. This is petrified wood, which became a stone, which was transformed. This is what also Dhamma teaches us, to know that nothing is permanent, nothing is stable, everything is in transition, arising, disappearing, taking new life, taking new shape, new form, new name. Like in this case, the wood became the stone. So we are going outside. I will show you a few more examples. Here they used it in the architecture to put inside the pillars. Very nice. So what story came up to my mind while I was watching all of these, trying to be mindful, practicing mindfulness with detachment, which is so much not easy when we are enjoying our senses. Look at these formations. Can one believe this was wood once? Wow. And there is a cactus. As we know, cactus doesn't need lots of humidity, lots of water, so it can grow in dry surfaces. So I don't know whether it is still wood or already stone. It's really in between the two. And the cactus grows. Amazing. This is our rented car that we are going to return to pick up our van, Tabarwa van. And this was the first exposition that we could see. We took some photos. These were the first pieces of wood that we could explore and learn that they turned into stones. Amazing. Hello, here is me. I will also show you a little bit of myself. and the atmosphere around, so that you can immerse into my experience better, and we'll continue to see around, and I will continue to share to you. So what I wanted to talk about is the story that actually Goenka likes to bring as a good example to Dhamma practitioners, to bring them the understanding, the value of the knowledge of Dhamma. Yeah, another one. Look at this. Really, it shows us, and from the far we can really mistakenly see it as a piece of wood, bulk of wood, and then inside we see it already as stones. Amazing. So although I switch subjects, I speak sometimes about the idea that I want to bring to you, then I speak about the exposition that I see and I want to share to you too. I see that the mind has this ability to return back to the initial subject. I'm not forgetting. When I used to teach one of the groups of meditators, I used to explain to them some concepts and then come back to the principal idea that was on my mind, and they were surprised how I might bring some example, develop a full story, and then still not forget and come back and not forget why I was talking about that, and still come back and speak about the principal subject. At that time I didn't know. I was just telling that it's just like this. I don't know. It's the flow of transferring the information that comes to me, to my mind. Now when I share more and when I teach more, just as Sayadaw says that the more we teach, the more we share, the more we can learn ourselves, and the more we can also understand the practice. So now I understand this is actually what the practice of mindfulness and concentration does. This is the effect of knowing the object, being able to let it go, and being able to choose the object knowingly. So when we develop concentration with one object, we can be distracted by another one, but then we will know that the other one is not real. We will let it go, and then we can either go back to the object of meditation that we may choose to insist on, to practice with, or we can just continue to let go of every object and recognize every new object. And this is what creates the power of mindfulness and detachment that allows us to go choose any subject of conversation and then let it go and continue again main subject. So trying to practice the touching, the seeing the states of my mind. Oh, there is a crystal forest there. You're playing this game as I realized that this is really possible to use the mind and mindfulness and the concentration of the mind. Crystal forest, there must be, like I saw at one of the brochures, that there are like stones all over on the ground, that we might go in that direction and see probably the formations of crystals. So using enough of that game of the mindfulness that also develops the concentration, when we just stay in the present moment and drop the object and come with the other object in contact and then let it go too. This allows us this game of choosing what we want to talk about. We had an idea that maybe in our new center in Los Angeles, in San Bernardino actually, instead of building houses, we can build yurts like this. So I wanted to speak about the story that Goenka likes a lot and brings as an example. That there was a boatman who took as a passenger a scientist on board, and the scientist kept coming to this boatman and asking him whether he knows about the science of meteorology, and how he could have lived all his life without knowing about all the winds and air and the change of the climate. This is so important, and if you don't know this, how could you have lived till like your 60 years or something? And then the boatman just shakes his head saying that, well, I don't know, and I don't know. And then the scientist would bring another subject, like about ornology, or like, I myself am not strong at knowing each and everything, because exactly I understand the value of knowledge, and there I go. I try to know what is useful for my path. But I already let you know the idea of the story. So every time this scientist was coming to the boatman, telling him kind of blamingly, oh, you don't know this, you don't know that, this is so important, how could you have lived your life? And then the storm comes, and the waves cover the boat, and at that time the professor is all scared, in fear of losing his life, when the boatman asks him, don't you know to swim? Why are you so scared? Don't you know to swim? How do you really value your life, and what is the value of your life if you just don't know the practical thing of swimming? And this is what actually happens in our lives, in lives of non-meditators and of many meditators, that we are so much theoretical, that we like to talk about Dhamma, we like to come and lose ourselves in beautiful and interesting places, just to exercise our senses, to enjoy our senses, and we will not be practical in bringing the knowledge of Dhamma into everyday activities, or we might be learning about all of those stones, we might be knowing the names and the process, how it was formed, but we will be only indulging into this knowing, which is just the theory and useful for our human life. So this is the contemplation that I came up with and wanted to share to you, to remind you that whatever experience you may get into life, intentionally or unintentionally, this visit in the museum, in this place, is an unintentional happening in my life. I felt kind of a hesitation and regret. How come that I'm a nun and I'm just coming around and enjoying? So I try to contemplate on that, not to reject, accept it, and just keep practicing. So I try to reinforce the mindfulness on my mind, and this is what I shared to you, is the way that I try to practice and to have some contemplations. In this way I can justify that anything that happens is not wasting of my human life. It is really used with the value of Dhamma.